Welcome back, folks, to season 4 of Ur Cuppa Support Together podcast. I am your host, Mrs. O, and on my right, I've got a very special lady, and that of Una Marie Leonard.
Hello, hello.
And we've got a very special guest in the hot seat today, and that is Kerrie Flood from Women's Aid.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome, Kerrie. How are you?
I'm good. It's lovely to be here.
We're just delighted to have you, honest to God.
Are you nervous?
I am nervous, yes.
Are
I
you?
think any time, especially with the word hot seat.
Yes. No, well, that there's just, it's the throne then. We'll call it the throne.
But
Yeah.
I know I'm amongst friends and I'm
That's
very
good.
safe and we can
Okay.
have a lovely conversation.
By
Tell us-
the end of it, by that midway, you forget you're even on a
That's
podcast.
it, yeah, you won't even know. You won't
like
even know
being
the microphone's
hypnotised.
there, or there's a camera there, or that you're on YouTube and God knows millions could be watching you. Millions. This will be the one that'll send us through the roof.
Probably.
Kerrie, you're very welcome here today in the sticks of Tyrone. Tell us a wee bit about yourself and what led you. You are the manager?
The CEO for
CEO.
Fermanagh and Omagh Women's
Fermanagh
Aid,
and
yeah.
CEO.
I know, I don't like saying that.
Why
Go
not?
you.
I don't know why not. I think I think I do know why. We are an organisation that's by women, that's for women,
Mm-hmm.
that's with women. There's not a hierarchy in my mind.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose we're like a well-oiled machine, and without any one part,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we
it has
don't
to all
run
go.
as smoothly. So I love the fact that anything we do it together. We do it as one. We do it as a collective. It's not down to any one individual. It's a whole team effort across all of us.
Oh, that's lovely.
But still needs somebody to manage all of that, Kerrie.
Somebody has to
You know,
manoeuvre it
and that's a tough job.
and steer it.
From manager to manager, me and you'll hold a wee support group.
Aye, that's it.
I know, but it's such a privilege too.
Oh, of course
to
it
have
is.
all these amazing. I mean, we're an organisation that employs only women, so to have all these wonderful women with all their different skills and experiences that have chosen to work in an organisation that has a feminist ethos, and then the value base really sits so easily with them. I mean, it's just a pleasure to walk alongside
So-
women like that.
That's actually a point I'm going to have to go back to because I didn't realise that it was, and why did I not? It was only ever women. It's only women you employ. But
Yeah.
what led you into your role in Women's Aid?
It was a little bit of an accident. I would have been one of these people who watched Ally McBeal and Legally Blonde and whatever. And so I went to university and did law and politics and was very clear I would love to be a solicitor. This is what I want to do, whatever. And in around that time we had a financial crash. So I suppose the training opportunities weren't really there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, right, I need to get something on my CV. And that's just being very honest.
Yeah.
And a volunteering opportunity came up in Fermanagh Women's Aid at the time. Started there and just totally fell in love with the work that we do, fell in love with the ethos, fell in love with seeing women thrive
Yeah.
after horror, really and truly. And I was very lucky then. There were job opportunities came up and I just stayed the course. And as we grew and developed, you know, I just decided, listen, I, this is where I want to be and this is where I want to stay, and I want to make a difference, yes, to the women and children that we support, but also to the team that delivers that work.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've just stayed and love it as much now as I did on day one, really.
How many years would that be, Kerrie?
15
years.
Yeah.
So you've come in as a volunteer,
Volunteer.
and now you're the CEO
yeah.
of Fermanagh and Omagh.
What an achievement.
Oh, Kerrie, now come on. What's that? I can't clap. We'll click. Go you. Like, that's amazing. From woman to woman here, mother to mother. That's a fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of the work we do. I really
You're
am.
passionate and you
Yeah.
believe and you're so of course you're going to
Yeah.
want to give all that you can into
Yeah.
the organisation.
And I think anybody who works in the voluntary sector and works in a charity knows that it's not, nobody's kind of motivated by big career progression or huge vast sums of money or anything like that. You have a connection with the work that you do,
Yeah.
and without that you wouldn't stay.
Yeah.
You know, there are other things you could do that are probably easier,
Mm-hmm.
that involve less emotional labour,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you don't want to choose that because
That's
the-
not where your
the-
heart is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
making the differences.
It's so important that the soul is ignited. You know, a lot of us walk about on this planet and we're not connected through your body and mind. You know, we're going to our job. You do what you do. You come home, But I think you need your soul ignited, and that's why we do
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah.
Lived experience, passion for the cause, and actually watching people evolve and finding their own answers and feeling safe.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I suppose that brings us perfectly on to, for anybody that's listening, can you tell us a wee bit about what Women's Aid does? I suppose, yes, Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid have recently joined together and merged
Yeah.
together. A big, was massive and it's going well. But just for some of our millions of listeners out there, what is it? Tell us a wee bit about what you do.
So there are women's aid organisations right across Northern Ireland. Each of us are separate charities, but we all work as a collective under the umbrella of Women's Aid Federation Northern Ireland. So we're deeply connected. And that's just the nature of how the services kind of grew up and evolved. They were all started in the same way that yous were started, through grassroots movements of women who saw an issue and took it on themselves to tackle. So I suppose we're best known really for our refuge provision. That's what people associate with Women's Aid. And we still do that work, and it is a core part of our service to this day. So in Fermanagh and Omagh, that means we have 10, the space for 10 families at any one time. Across Northern Ireland, those refuges tend to be full most of the time.
Okay, and how long would a family or a woman stay in the
in the refuge? So
Yeah.
ideally, they were always designed to be temporary. So they were
Okay.
designed to be somewhere that women come for a place of safety, respite, care, support, and that you stay for a while and we support you really intensely. But ideally, we want to get you into your own home to start rebuilding your own life. And it's all about empowering women and giving them the tools to do that. Unfortunately, in Northern Ireland, where we are now in terms of our housing, we don't have enough houses for our population. So women do stay longer now in refuge than we would like them to, and than they would like to.
Of course.
But there's
Okay.
no time frame, as in you've been there for 6 months, we're now asking you to leave. We don't do that at all.
And a woman can come. It doesn't mean that she has to have children to attend.
No,
Okay.
anyone.
Because that can be what people often think.
Absolutely.
I need to have children to be a part of the service.
Yeah.
No, and women who have no recourse to public funds, who aren't entitled to any benefits, whether that's because you're working or whether that's to do with your immigration status, we will absolutely provide accommodation and support for you. The only thing really that we're about is where you've been subjected to domestic abuse, we will line up the supports for you. And that really is, I suppose, the traditional view of domestic abuse, which is middle of the night, grab your babies,
Yeah.
grab your toothbrush and run. And that's real, true emergency and true crisis. But that doesn't make up the majority of the work that we do. So we have about 180 women and children who are receiving support within the community. So for women, that will be wherever is safe. If home isn't safe, we'll meet you in a GP surgery. We have met in car parks where we've had to. We will bring our service and our support to you, particularly conscious that we're in a very rural area.
Yes.
And the nature of domestic abuse means that women have to account for their time. They have to account for their diesel. So we will do a risk assessment and meet you in the safest place possible. And that's everything from guiding you through, maybe it's a court process, maybe it's housing, maybe financially you're not in a place to where you can leave. A lot of it is that emotional support and actually the validation that you're right, what you're experiencing is abuse. It's not okay. And there are things that we can do to minimise that risk to you. And then if we think about, and I think that's particularly pertinent for yourselves, if we think about a mother and a child as being a dyad, as being two halves of one whole. And long before I ever heard that word, that was the approach Women's Aid took, that families are a package deal. And yes, you provide the support to the mum, but you also need to make sure that you have dedicated support there for children and young people as well.
Yeah.
Because kids will censor themselves. They will want to protect their mummy. They'll want to protect daddy. They'll want to, I suppose, be strong. They'll have a role within that household, whatever that may be. Maybe they are a protector. I've heard a teenager describe it as being a bouncer in your own home.
Yeah, peacekeeper.
And feeling responsible. So to have a really safe, dedicated space for them to share their feelings, to talk about, the changes that maybe are happening for them. Maybe that's, I used to have one house, now I have two. Maybe it's the things that they've seen, the things that they've been subjected to themselves.
Yeah.
And that's right from the age of 4 right up until 18. And that's for boys and girls.
That's amazing.
And I think that's maybe a part of women's aid's work that isn't so widely known about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important.
So important.
Yeah, yeah.
And I suppose I'm there long enough now to where we see people who were quite young when they accessed our support service, and we see them now thriving.
Yeah.
And that's not just down to women's aid. It's really down to that mother who had that resilience, that strength, and that ability and capacity to parent while going through domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Parenting is really difficult,
Mm-hmm.
but parenting while you're subject to coercive control, physical violence, financial abuse is unbelievably difficult. And I think it's testament to the strength of those women.
Yes.
The resilience that they have, their ability to risk assess, and
Mm-hmm.
to prioritise their safety and their children's safety. It's lovely to see them years later.
Like can you break down the forms of abuse that?
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to say. Domestic
Yeah.
violence, you think it's physical, but I know you've spoke there about emotional abuse, and I was going to ask you, like, is that the? I suppose we've a couple of things we're going to ask, but is that the most? Is that what you're seeing most of, or what is it? All domestic violence, as in physical abuse, or what is or is it just a mixture of all? And I know then, I was going to go back to it's not just physical abuse. There's other
Yeah.
stuff. Can you give us a couple of examples of what they are?
For somebody
Just,
listening,
for
maybe,
somebody
they're
listening.
sitting now, and this is our way of educating them.
I suppose the first thing is that domestic abuse and domestic violence is not relationship conflict. It isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an argument. And a good sort of way of having a look at your own relationship is to say, am I afraid of consequence? Is there fear of consequence for me? And if the answer to that question is yes, well then there's the potential then that this is abusive. Because in an ideal world, we all fall out, we all have arguments, we have discussions. Life is a negotiation between two partners.
Mm-hmm.
The difference with domestic abuse is that there's a real power imbalance
Mm-hmm.
and that there are consequences for the victim if she doesn't go along with whatever those rules are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in Northern Ireland, you're looking at about 29,000 incidents that are reported to police every year. And by and large, those will be physical violence. And that will be, I just need this to stop right now because actually this is quite dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see, there's lots of evidence then that'll go along with that, whether that's injuries, whether it's, severe distress, witnesses potentially. But it doesn't make up the majority of what we see with women, and it doesn't make up the majority of what women tell us is the most damaging.
Yeah.
For most women, they will talk about the emotional abuse and the coercive control. So coercive control is essentially, and I think the best definition I ever heard was from Evan Stark. It is a series of conditions, the terms and conditions of the relationship that establish in the victim the price of her resistance. So there are rules of engagement within the home that are subject to change at any minute, that have to be obeyed. And if you don't obey, there will be consequences. So whether that is financial consequence, so I'll restrict your budget for the next week. Whether it is that you have spoken out of turn at a family event, well, you're going to be restricted from your friends and family. You can't go out anymore because you can't be trusted to behave yourself. It's really that restriction of thought, restriction of movement, restriction of ability to sort of navigate your own life and make your own decisions. It's a real
The control somebody has, have you?
Yeah, a real stripping back of any autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
while also making her totally doubt her reality, that it wasn't as bad, that something within you drove him to it. And then you'll hear lots of excuses that will come with that as well. So whether that's, I'm under pressure at work. I had a really tough childhood. I only do it when I drink, and I suppose putting a woman then into that caring role, making her responsible for the violence within the home, whether that's physical or emotional violence. And we do see an awful lot of financial abuse as well.
Yeah.
So that could be debts that are run up in your name. It could be issues around the ownership. I mean, we would say particularly in rural areas, ownership of land, of livestock, which is essentially your livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
For those women who are, in inverted commas, professionals, there can be fear of professional consequence. So if you're a doctor, oh, I'm going to ring your work, you're not fit to be doing your job. Look at the way you behave in this house, look at the way you go on. So there can be those consequences, and also community consequences as well. If you leave, if you don't follow the rules, I will take your children. No one will believe you. And essentially they will tell you, I will engage in a course of conduct that totally destroys your character, that destroys your self-esteem if you try to resist the terms and conditions that I've set within this relationship.
All the threats.
And threats, yeah. And an awful lot actually of monitoring as well. So whether that is monitoring your movement. So there was £50 now at this stage with the price of diesel. There's £50 of diesel in your car. Tell me where you were, account for those miles. Using things like Google. Lots of us, particularly as parents, have a shared Google email address.
Yeah.
Who are you talking to? Who are you communicating with? Hacking into your social media, putting on your tracking on your phone, for example. Another one would be trackers in cars. Maybe cameras at the home. Very often these things begin as being framed as care. I'm worried about you. What
The
if
safety for the house, the safety for the children.
Yes. And I think that's why it's so difficult. You know, no one is physically assaulted the first time. It's something that happens very, very gradually, very slowly. And then you sort of wake up one day and wonder, well, how did this happen? How did I get here? It's a bit like essentially a hostage situation. If you imagine domestic abuse as the only crime where you as the victim live in and exist in the crime scene.
Yeah, that's very interesting because you become very disabled. You know, you're a very able-bodied person, very independent, and then the next of it slowly,
The control's taken away from you.
the control, and you now no longer can reach for help because you don't even know what help is anymore.
You're doubting yourself because that's what
I deserve this.
You know, well, I suppose it's because I spoke this way, or I spoke out of turn, or I was away longer than I should have been away, or you know, there's a, I don't know the word for it, but your confidence is gone, everything's gone, but it's all to the control of the other person.
It's a bit like grooming.
Yes.
Really.
Oh yeah, that's done slowly.
And there will be things, whether that's things in your own personal past, or just almost a searching for things about you that can be exploited later or can be used against you later. I'm thinking, you know, perhaps a woman who maybe has had postnatal depression.
Yeah.
But do you remember? You weren't well. Your mind breaks. You know, this is the kind of
To make you doubt yourself.
personal information that can be twisted and used against you. Only for me. Where would you be?
Yeah.
So I think like that. I straight away my mind sitting here thinking I'm a young girl. I'm going out looking for a relationship. Where's that prevention? Where's that early intervention stuff that if I see that happening, is this in certain men or do men end up because
there's no red flags above these men to let you know that actually he's.
Do you know what I mean? Right. So there's where I have a daughter, right? I have a son also. How do we help? What is it? That early intervention. What message can we get out there? You know, you want to empower people that they can go, actually, see the way you're behaving, that's unacceptable. You know, using your words.
Absolutely. I mean, and it starts from day one.
Okay.
From day dot. So are we instinctively telling our daughters, now come on, have manners, sit politely, be nice, don't chat back. Don't answer back. Are we controlling their bodies? Are we controlling what they're wearing? Even within our own households. Are we giving maybe a different message to another child of, here, there's a toy gun. Oh, they're just being rough. Oh, it's only a bit of rough housing. I mean, that's the very earliest. And it sounds very low level. It sounds very unimportant, but it's not. Those gender norms that you set within your own home are so important. And then as we move into, school, every primary 4 child in Northern Ireland will complete a programme called Helping Hands. That will be delivered by their teacher. Those teachers are all trained by Women's Aid staff through something called Social Guardian.
Fantastic. And when did this all come in?
Oh, you're talking, it could be 10 years ago now at this stage.
See, that's something that
and not every parent will even know. And
that it's happening in the class.
They won't know that it's a Women's Aid programme.
Okay.
Well, I've had 2 children through P4. The third one's nearly finished, and I've never heard tell of it. But then, obviously, it's been done.
Yeah. So
brilliant. Okay.
Some of the things you might see is a gingerbread man and your uh-oh signs. What are your uh-oh signs? When does your body go, uh-oh, this isn't safe? Yes. What does that feel like? What does that look like? How does it feel in your tummy? How does it feel maybe in your chest? Are you breathing faster? Are your palms sweaty? Are you getting shaky? That's your body communicating with you.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it, and what can we do?
Yeah.
So then we look at, which is actually really difficult as an adult, 5 people in your life that you could talk to about anything, no matter how big or how small. And that's about giving children really the tools to safety plan without ever telling them this is a safety plan.
Love it.
And the people that they mention are so lovely. It could be the dinner lady, because she knows I hate turnips and I love extra chips.
Yeah.
It could be somebody in a youth club. So that's why there's so much work now around building capacity in the community, is because those children are identifying lots of different people in their lives, not just a teacher or a parent. And then as we move into secondary school, I suppose we do have within the curriculum sex and relationship education. That is delivered slightly differently depending on the school, depending on sort of the Board of Governors and who they decide to bring in. But Women's Aid do a lot of that as well, and there are other agencies across Northern Ireland doing that work. You'll probably have seen things like the Pants campaign from NSPCC.
Yes. I remember doing it in Sure Start when I worked, and it was a very good campaign.
But once we get to sort of 14, 15, and we know that they're starting to have early relationships, well, what is a relationship? Who do we have them with and why? Because it's not just an intimate relationship, it's also our friendships and how we treat each other. It's also our relationships within our family and how we treat each other there. What are my rights within a relationship, the things that I deserve? And also, what are my responsibilities within a relationship? So I have a right to be respected and valued and cared for, but I also have a responsibility to treat others with kindness, compassion, all of that. Now, there's certainly lots more of that we can be doing, but things have started to move in that direction. We have lots of organisations delivering particularly early intervention work, and particularly with our teenagers.
Yes.
And one thing that we have that's lovely, although I'm saying this is only the second podcast I've ever been on, Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid have an amazing group of volunteers. So we have young people from 14 up to 18.
Yes.
They're called our Lighthouse Project.
And they do a podcast, don't they?
And they have a podcast called Spot the Fox.
Wow.
And is that educating?
Yes. It's educating me.
Yeah.
It's teaching me how to have a conversation with, and I've said to you, my eldest is 12. There is no point in me trying to talk to her in my words and using language that maybe she doesn't relate to or understand. So they have given me as a parent so many tools on how to have difficult and challenging conversations with my own children.
Brilliant.
Around relationships, around abuse, around how to safely intervene, when to not intervene, when to pull in an adult or the appropriate person. So it's really brilliant.
And that's available on all.
Yeah, it's out on YouTube.
And what's it called again?
Spot the Fox.
Spot the Fox.
It sounds it sounds like it's their chance for having a conversation.
Yes.
Maybe something that they wouldn't have with the like of a parent. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't
And that
realise there was
should
so
be
much-
the way, you know, youth speaking to youth, because there's lingo, there's ways that people can get through you through apps. They understand. Listen, there's stuff I don't understand. That's
And
the
they're-
way, but
yeah.
of me
They're more likely to have a conversation and
with
bring
each other.
something up
Yeah.
like, hey, you're what? See what such and such said, or what
Yeah.
do you think about this here? Or what? Like, they'll do it with their friends or with somebody of their peers
Yeah.
on their level before they come to the like of an adult or their mother and father. That's amazing to hear. There's so much resource out there.
And how is this? There's yet again. There's my manager head on my and community and voluntary. Where's this? Where's the money coming from for
Where's
this,
fun for
Ciara?
us here? Can you get us some of it?
No, not even that. But where is?
No, I know.
That's no joke. Like it's
I know.
that all needs funded. Nothing's free.
No.
Money has to come from somewhere
Yeah.
to provide this invaluable service, first and foremost for Women's Aid, also for that amazing podcast.
Yeah.
So is this donations, government funding?
So we have a whole mixture. It's a melting pot of funding.
Is it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
our main funder, our core funder, is supporting people. So that is essentially for those women who are at risk of homelessness as a result of domestic abuse. So that funds our floating support service, and it funds our refuge accommodation service
Okay.
as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have the Western Health and Social Care Trust, which is primarily funding children and young people's services.
Uh-huh.
But outside of that, there's no other government funding at the minute for Fermanagh and Omagh Women's Aid, and not that's recurring. Those two funds are recurring on an annual basis, and that'll make up about half of our service provision. The rest of it, like yourselves, we have to source. So whether that is the lottery have invested huge amounts of money into domestic abuse services, and they are responsible for funding the Spot the Fox podcast, which is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
through their Empowering Young People strand.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Children in need. So again, before coming into the voluntary sector, I would have watched that appeal every year and went, oh, children in need. That's lovely. It never connected for me. That
Now you see
actually
where the pounds go to actually
they
and
were
the difference it
funding a vital
makes.
service
Yeah.
in my own area. I had no idea. Comic Relief, awards for all again under the lottery as well. And then we'll just apply for anything that we feel fits with the work that we want to do and the work that we are doing. So at the minute we have a project just started, a healthy relationships project under Peace Plus. So that's looking at misogyny, racism, sectarianism, and how those things collide to basically create a less safe environment and community and society. Now that's project based, that's 2-year funding. So I suppose core part of my job is to seek funding, to secure funding, to monitor on the services.
This is Ur Cuppa, the Support Together podcast, and we couldn't bring you today's episode without the support of Shannon Hollywood, behavioural consultant. Shannon supports parents with a compassionate, research-based approach that focuses on connection, emotional safety and co-regulation, not punishment. Her courses and online content are designed to help parents stay calm and confident and connected, especially during challenging moments. And remember to follow Shannon on all her socials.
And then the rest is donations from the public. So between January and March, we had about £16,000 worth of donations from our community. And if I put that into perspective, what is that? What does that mean? That's a part-time support worker for 12 months. You know, so
the amount of families that support worker could be
that's
holding.
maybe 60 women across a year. You know, so all of it matters. All of it makes a massive difference to the lives of the women that we support, because we can't afford to sit still with those two core pieces of funding.
No.
Brilliant as they are, and they're the foundation of our service. But that's not enough. It's never going to be enough.
No, because the need is there, and it's how do you meet that need, and that
Exactly.
needs resourced.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, and a lot of that's money.
Yeah.
And like we see a lot of people raise money for you, and it's fantastic. And I know, and I'm going to say like, there's been a lot of horror stories, deaths, especially in Northern Ireland.
Yep.
Horrific. Like we went to your conference, the whole merging, and
Yep.
that lead up to that, lost her life
Yeah.
And one shortly again after that.
after that.
Yeah.
What the name of God's going on? Like, this is like,
There are a few things. So, I mean, the first thing is, as Women's Aid across
Mm-hmm.
Northern Ireland, we only started really shining a light on this in Northern Ireland as a collective in 2020. So that's when we started to record very clearly the names, the ages of women who had been murdered,
okay.
who they had been murdered by, what that relationship was,
Mhm.
so that we were able to say, actually, women are primarily at risk from their male intimate partner or ex-partner. So this idea that we all had in school of when you're walking in a dark alley, carry your keys in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you're in danger in public.
Mm-hmm.
What we know now is actually the risk to most women is within their own home.
Yeah.
So there's that piece of visibility. There's been lots of work. We have our Violence Against Women and Girls strategy. We've lots of awareness, and we've seen some shifts in things like our media reporting. But alongside that, we know that the general trend of domestic abuse is on the upward trajectory. And that's coming from police data, our own data, and Women's Aid as well. And certainly I do see levels of violence against women and girls that I probably haven't seen for a long time. And I suppose there's a bit of a perfect storm happening.
Okay.
There is a break in some of our key services, whether that's underfunding of our police, whether that's limited resourcing for our education services, for our health service, long delays in our courts and our court system and the judiciary. So there are so many factors that come into play as to why things are particularly acute and particularly bad now.
Mm-hmm.
We know that women who live in rural areas, in general, the abuse, and this is coming from research in England and Wales, it lasts about 25% longer. Domestic abuse does not get better.
No.
It escalates over time. And so the level of harm experienced in rural communities is just by default much worse.
Yes.
Because it lasts longer.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I suppose, more awareness in terms of maybe the influence of online content, which, yes, is very harmful, but is not the sole cause of domestic abuse. Definitely not. We were wrestling with this issue long before we had the internet, and if the internet disappeared tomorrow, we would still be dealing with this.
Okay.
So in Northern Ireland, I mean, we are a post-conflict society, so we would have grown up with a history of public violence that was acceptable to a certain extent, and not so much awareness on the violence that women were experiencing within their own homes, almost like a hierarchy of violence that needs to be tackled. And for us, the troubles were the key issue that had to be addressed at that time. Now we're moving into a space where we can start to tackle the violence that's happening privately.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suppose along with that, if we look back at the history of women and what we had, what we didn't have, in 1992, rape was a defence, or marriage was a defence to rape.
Like what?
We're only voting for, just over 100 years?
Yeah.
If we worked for example, for the civil service, if your mum or your grandmother worked for them, if she got married, she had to leave.
That's right.
You couldn't get a mortgage in your own name. You couldn't access loans.
No.
Even simple things like when we get married, we take our husband's name, our children have their father's name, because the lines of succession were such that everything went from father to son. So, and on top of that, if you add a layer of state-sanctioned violence against women and girls, we packed our daughters into cars and we handed them to institutions that removed their children. And we did that believing we were just. So we have a long history here to unpick before we can kind of grapple with the level of violence that we're seeing against women and girls. It's wrong now. Now we look at it and we say objectively that's wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not that long ago that we didn't.
No. And that was, as you say, the man was the head of the house and the demands, the money, everything, and the woman.
Yeah. I suppose a massive thing, I was doing a wee bit of research before we came in and met today, and this conversation is just flowing perfect. But in terms of like the violence, yes, there's violence in the home and in the rural areas. It goes on for longer. You'll always hear it. Well, why don't they just leave?
Yeah.
Why don't they just get up and go? Like, we know it's not that easy, but for the listeners, what I suppose explain to them, and then a few barriers of what's stopping them.
And that attitude is out there.
Yeah.
You know, you hear that a lot.
Well, sure,
Didn't we tell her?
I
Sure, I tried to warn her. Sure, she won't listen. Sure, she's there for the money and the big house and the big car. Do you know, you're hearing that.
Yeah,
So as Ciara said, like
that
That's-
is out there.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, it's one of the first questions actually that most women are asked. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you tell? Why didn't you report?
would you reach out for help?
Yeah. And the first thing I suppose for me is, again, domestic abuse is the only place where we ask the victim why she didn't take action. And we don't necessarily ask, well, why did he abuse her? So that's the first thing. I think we need to stop asking that question and start
So
asking.
say a wee bit more about that, if you don't mind, because that's very interesting.
In anything where there is someone who has been the victim of a crime, we wouldn't talk to somebody about a burglary, for example, and say, well, why didn't you tackle the burglar in the hallway? Why didn't you have steel bars on your window? Why did you have a fancy car that was an invitation to steal? We don't do that with anything.
No, we do
other
not.
than-
But yet, no, if a woman's being
Yeah.
abused,
It's the first thing we ask.
the first thing an outsider will say was, "Oh, why didn't you leave?" If he was abusing
So
her, why
what
didn't you leave?
is that? That's attitude.
What's that
That's
perception?
generational. That's
That in a nutshell is the patriarchy and is misogyny. It's a systemic history of holding women accountable for the violence that they're subjected to.
like that. That few sentences you said there that's powerful.
And I suppose, really, unless it's somebody who's had the lived experience or been through it or had somebody, they won't understand that.
No,
That's massive.
Yeah.
and
then
that is true. It's always, why did you stay? Why did you not? Oh my! It's not why did he do that? You know, consequences to actions here. What happened here? Why did? It's back to the woman.
Yeah.
To blaming her,
Yeah.
it's your own fault for staying.
Yeah. And I suppose then if we look at what does leaving look like? Most women do leave. The key is leaving in a way that is safe. So I'll give you an example. If there's a fire in your house, your instinct, if you woke up in the middle of the night and you smell smoke and you feel heat, your instinct might be open the window and run. But actually what we're told is, well, first of all, don't panic and take things slowly. So that might mean that you're wetting a towel, you're putting it against the door, you're feeling the door. Is the fire right outside it? Where is it? If I open the window, is that going to introduce oxygen? Is the fire going to turn into, to move from something that's dangerous into something that's actually life-threatening? For me, that's a really good way of looking at women making the decision to leave, because it's not like walking through an open door. It takes planning and time. You need to have the financial resources to be able to leave. You need to have a plan as to where you're going. You need to be thinking about, for mothers, does this mean I'm going to have to change school? Am I going to have to leave my community? Do I need to tell my family, my friends, my work? What does that look like? And the key is that leaving is the single most dangerous time for any woman.
Yeah.
So if we look at the domestic homicide reviews in Northern Ireland, a common theme is that the woman was either about to leave or making moves to leave or planning to leave. So it's a really, really dangerous time. And by saying, well, why don't you just leave? We're saying, well, why don't you just jump into the fire? It's maybe not the right time. So that's why for us as a service, that is not what we do. We don't make women leave.
No.
You come to us to figure out your options. And while the refuge is that middle of the night emergency, most of the women who come to us are supported to leave safely. They have a full safety plan, a support plan. How are we going to get where we want to be? And that will take time. It can take time, and that's okay. You know, this idea that you just have to jump off the cliff isn't really helpful.
Yeah.
And then women know as well that the systems that they're having to rely on can be difficult. So you leave, you bring your children with you. The likelihood is that a court will ask you to put those same children into a car on a Friday evening and hand them over. And so for some women, until children are a bit older, they feel that maybe staying is safer because at least I'm there to keep an eye on the kids.
Yeah.
And I suppose the key thing for me, for any of the women who are listening, is that there is a path to safety and to leaving safely, but you're much more likely to be successful with support, with help. And that's what we're here to do.
So when somebody contacts you, because I am already sitting thinking somebody's listening, and to create that pathway, that escape will take time.
Yeah.
They can contact you, have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm feeling A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And then what happens then?
So some women will
Kerrie.
just kind of ring for a bit of advice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think this might be abusive. What do
Yeah.
you think? Or women will contact us when they're ready to start making moves to leave the relationship. So within sort of 48 hours is our target. Within 48 hours of the referral, we will phone you back. We'll arrange an initial visit with you. So that will take in a full risk assessment, a full safety plan and support plan, just assessing your needs and where you are.
But people need to remember, it doesn't mean you come to their house.
No. We'll do it wherever is safe.
Yeah, that's where
Very
it's just
often
even
in
to
our
get
centre.
that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've actually had in years gone by people come over and used our office
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And then we do have a waiting list.
okay,
But, and I put a big but there,
big butt. All right.
we would never conduct a full assessment with someone and sort of tell them, oh, by the way, you're in danger, and then leave them to deal with the aftermath of that.
All right. Okay.
While anyone is on our waiting list, we should be checking in with them at least fortnightly, if not weekly, so that if anything changes, if something else happens, something new happens, or you forgot to tell us something, we can relook at it and try to get you allocated as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So then you'll have a dedicated support worker, and that support worker will be with you until you don't need them anymore. Again, it's not 6 sessions and you're out or anything like that. For some women, it'll take 12 months.
Yes. Cool.
For some women, they might need to come back to us a few times. Maybe there are family court proceedings where they just need to check back in and say, here, I'm really finding this tough.
And you're able to give advice in family court. Is it about even advice about finance? Because a lot of women, that's what's keeping them in the home is money.
Yeah, so we'll do that full benefit check with them. And, we can refer to other agencies as well in terms of, if there's debt management that needs to be looked at and all of that. We'll guide them through, well, what does a court process maybe look like? What do criminal proceedings look like? What civil protections are there for me? So before I ever, or if it doesn't rise to the level of where there's going to be potentially a conviction for a criminal outcome, there are still protective orders there. So there are non-molestation orders and occupancy orders, which is where court steps in to say, actually, we don't believe you're safe either, and we're going to limit this person's access to you. And if they continue to access you or continue to harass you or turn up or whatever, breaking that order and breaching that order can result in arrest. So it depends on where that woman is at and what she needs, but we'll kind of take a holistic view and guide her to kind of access the other protections that she might need. Other examples are the police do have the power to tell. So where you're in a relationship and maybe he has a history of violence, of domestic abuse, the police can tell you that. They can give you that information. If you, as a friend or a family member, if you have a connection with that victim and you're worried, you have the power to ask. So you can ask the police to inform the victim.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to get a full detailed history, but you will be told, yes, this person has a history.
So what does that mean? You can ring in?
You can do it online, which is even
okay.
simpler.
Yeah.
And then you'll attend a police station and the police will tell you whether or not they have information on whether this person has a history of domestic abuse.
Wow. One thing I took from your the conference or the thing we were there for the merging, which I thought was fantastic, And for others, they mightn't think it's that big of a deal. But I know that they talked about taking the ownership. The police will take the ownership. If the woman was being abused and she reaches out in the hour of need and goes to Women's Aid, and the police or whatever are involved and whatever has happened, and then maybe she retracts and think, oh God, no, actually I can't do this, or this has been too far, or he's really nice to me now, so everything's all right, forget about it. Actually, once it's kind of past the line and it's the police turn around and say, well, actually, no, we are taking this further because what's happened is not right. I think that's really good that it's not on the woman's shoulders. He can come back and say, well, you got me arrested. Actually, what you did, got yourself arrested. It's out of my hands. It's beyond my control. I think that's really good, because I think that'll be something that probably would hold a woman back. And we all know from well, I can't say from experience, but we all know that it'll kind of maybe come in waves, and something will happen, and then it'll retract back, and then everything will be fine for a while.
Rose in the garden, and then the next one,
everything's great
again.
And that's probably, I suppose, to keep them from reaching out, or everything's fine. But actually, the power's taken off the woman then at that stage, in her best interests. It's not as if they're doing it in spite. It's in their I think that there's a fantastic piece of work. I can't even mind the lady who did it, who spoke about it, but
that's only all recent, isn't it? The cat wasn't.
There's been
always there.
There's been gradual change. So I suppose in the last 5 years we've had more legislation passed to try and protect victims than we've ever had. So we have legislation around coercive control, which historically would never have been.
Exactly. No, that was a big word. Nobody knew.
Nobody knew what it meant. We have stronger protections in terms of stalking and harassment and all of that. And I suppose it's maybe good to sort of say that if the police respond to a domestic abuse incident, while that woman is, yes, the victim, in terms of a prosecution, she is the witness.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, as a victim, you can apply for something called special measures. So if you're afraid to give evidence in court, you can tell the police that they can apply for special measures on your behalf. So you can give your evidence maybe behind a screen, or maybe it's pre-recorded through body-worn camera. And then for us in Enniskillen, we have a remote evidence centre. So a judge has the ability to say, yes, you can give evidence from Women's Aid. And that's partly because of the layout of our courthouse, because it's one entry. And we would find that women would have passed their abuser in the whole, and it's really intimidating.
Oh yeah,
and it can be so difficult to relive that trauma. But the police can, if they have other than corroborating evidence as well, they can pursue a prosecution, and they will wherever possible. Now, does that mean that every single domestic abuse case will result in a criminal conviction? No, it doesn't.
No.
We have relatively low conviction rates for things like sexual offences and rape. But there are other outcomes other than a criminal justice outcome. So we want perpetrators to be held to account under the law. But we also want, in terms of our focus as Women's Aid, women to be able to rebuild their lives, to move forward, to move on. So there are other protections that can be put in place as well, even where there's not maybe a criminal proceeding. And that's, I've mentioned those orders and things.
Yes.
And with support, we can absolutely get there. Because having that financial freedom to leave can be as important as having those other protections. But of course, we encourage everyone to report to police.
Join us next week for part 2 of Ur Cuppa, the Support Together podcast, hosted by me, Mrs. O, Ciara O'Gowan, and the S2 team. And we couldn't bring you today's episode without the support of Shannon Hollywood, behavioural consultant, and produced by 9874 Creative.